There is a kind of tiredness that Virgo carries through life that most people never notice. It's not loud. It doesn't look dramatic. It doesn't announce itself with chaos or recklessness. It's quiet, constant, deep. It's the tiredness of someone who has been holding things together for a very long time. Virgo often wakes up already alert, already thinking, already scanning the day ahead for what might go wrong and how to prevent it. Even on calm mornings, even when life seems stable, there's an underlying sense of responsibility humming in the background, like something important depends on them not slipping up. And most Virgos don't question this feeling. They assume it's just who they are. They assume everyone lives like this. But not everyone does. This pressure has a source, and that source is Saturn. Saturn is not the planet that gives comfort. It doesn't whisper reassurance. It doesn't soften the edges of life. Saturn is the planet that prepares you for reality. It rules time, limits, responsibility, fear, and consequence. It governs the slow, often uncomfortable process of becoming someone solid enough to stand on their own. When Saturn touches a soul, it doesn't ask what they want. It asks what they're capable of carrying. And when Saturn encounters Virgo, it recognizes something immediately. Virgo already takes life seriously. Virgo already questions themselves before anyone else does. They already analyze their actions, their words, their choices, searching for flaws, searching for improvement. They already believe, on some deep level, that their value comes from being useful. So Saturn doesn't need to introduce discipline to Virgo. It intensifies it. From early in life, many Virgos feel like they don't get to be careless. While others are experimenting, making mistakes, being forgiven easily, Virgo is observing, learning, adjusting. They notice emotional undercurrents in their environment. They sense tension before it becomes visible. They understand expectations without needing them spelled out. And Saturn allows that awareness to become responsibility. Virgo often becomes the reliable one, the helper, the problem solver, the quiet backbone of families, workplaces, relationships. They're praised for it, trusted for it, relied upon for it. But Saturn is not impressed by praise. Saturn watches how Virgo responds when the responsibility grows heavier. At first, Virgo rises to the challenge. They organize, they improve, they refine, they become efficient, competent, and precise. There's a sense of pride in doing things well, in being dependable, in knowing that others can count on you. But slowly, almost invisibly, the line between discipline and self-denial begins to blur. Virgo starts feeling uneasy when they're not being productive. Rest feels undeserved. Pleasure feels like something that must be earned. Mistakes become personal failures instead of normal experiences. The inner voice sharpens. It doesn't yell. It critiques. You should have noticed that. You could have done better. You can't afford to mess this up. And because Virgo is already self-aware, already introspective, that voice becomes powerful. Saturn doesn't silence it. Because Saturn is testing something. How much pressure will Virgo put on themselves before they question whether it's necessary? Virgo keeps going. They tighten their standards. They hold themselves to higher expectations than anyone else ever could. They believe that if they can just be better, more precise, more controlled, the anxiety will finally ease. But Saturn's lessons don't work that way. Instead of relief, Virgo often experiences a constant low-grade tension, a sense of being on all the time, a mind that never fully rests. Even in moments of success, there's little satisfaction. The relief is brief, replaced quickly by the next task, the next improvement, the next thing that could be optimized. This is where Saturn begins to apply real pressure, not by destroying Virgo's life, but by slowly revealing the cost of this way of living. Virgo may experience burnout, though they often don't recognize it at first. They may feel disconnected from joy. They may notice their body reacting, digestive issues, anxiety, tension, fatigue. But even then, Virgo often pushes through. Because stopping feels like failure. Because slowing down feels irresponsible. Because somewhere deep inside, Virgo believes that if they loosen their grip, everything will fall apart. This belief is Saturn's next lesson. At some point, usually quietly, Virgo reaches a breaking moment. It's not always dramatic. It might not involve a collapse or a public failure. Sometimes it's just an internal realization. I've done everything right, and I'm still exhausted. I've been careful, disciplined, responsible, and I don't feel fulfilled. I don't know how to rest without feeling guilty. This moment feels confusing, even frightening, because Virgo's identity has been built around effort, improvement, and responsibility. If those things don't bring peace, what will? Saturn does not answer immediately. Saturn is not a teacher that explains the lesson before the student is ready. Instead, Saturn removes illusions. Virgo begins to see that perfection has never actually created safety, that control hasn't eliminated anxiety, that responsibility, taken too far, has become a form of self-punishment. This realization hurts, because it means Virgo has been carrying more than they were meant to. In career, Saturn often expresses this lesson through delays and obstacles. Virgo may work incredibly hard, yet feel like recognition comes slowly. Promotions take time. Success doesn't arrive easily. Virgo might compare themselves to others and wonder why effort doesn't always equal reward. But Saturn is not building quick success. It is building durability. While others rely on luck or momentum, Virgo is learning systems, mastery, and resilience. They are being shaped into someone who doesn't crumble under pressure. When Virgo finally steps into authority, it's quiet. There's no flashy announcement. But once they're there, they're rarely questioned. People trust them instinctively, not because Virgo demands respect, but because their presence feels stable, grounded, reliable. Saturn delays to ensure that when Virgo succeeds, they stay successful. In relationships, Saturn's influence can feel even heavier. Virgo approaches love seriously, carefully, with intention. They don't fall blindly. They analyze compatibility, potential, long-term implications. But Saturn often brings Virgo relationships that feel karmic, weighted, meaningful. Virgo may attract partners who need support, healing, or structure. Without realizing it, Virgo slips into a role where they're giving more than they're receiving. They try to fix problems, smooth conflicts, manage emotions. They confuse love with responsibility. At first, this feels noble, even fulfilling. But over time, Virgo begins to feel drained, unseen, underappreciated. Love starts to feel like another task to manage. And Saturn waits until Virgo asks the question they've been avoiding. Why do I feel responsible for everyone else's emotional well-being? That question is dangerous to old patterns, because it leads to an uncomfortable truth. Virgo does not need to earn love through usefulness. They are not responsible for fixing the people they care about. They are allowed to be imperfect, needy, human. This realization doesn't come easily. Virgo resists it, doubts it, tries to rationalize their way around it. But Saturn doesn't negotiate. When Virgo refuses to listen emotionally, Saturn often speaks through the body. Stress accumulates. Anxiety becomes persistent. The nervous system stays on high alert. Virgo might develop health issues that force them to slow down. This feels unfair at first, like betrayal. I've done everything right. Why is this happening? But Saturn's message is simple. You cannot live your entire life in correction mode. Virgo is forced to confront their limits. Physical, emotional, mental. And this confrontation is humbling. Virgo begins to see that discipline without compassion becomes cruelty. That self-control without softness leads to emptiness. This is where the relationship with Saturn changes. Instead of resisting limits, Virgo begins to respect them. Instead of pushing harder, Virgo learns when to stop. Instead of criticizing themselves endlessly, Virgo starts practicing gentler awareness. This doesn't mean Virgo loses their precision or intelligence. It means they integrate wisdom. The inner voice changes tone. It becomes calmer, more measured, less punishing. Virgo learns to rest without guilt, to say no without explanation, to let some things remain imperfect without panic. Saturn notices, and Saturn responds. The pressure doesn't disappear, but it becomes supportive rather than crushing. Structure replaces fear. Stability replaces anxiety. Virgo becomes someone who understands responsibility without self-sacrifice. They know when to help and when to step back, when to fix and when to allow things to unfold. Their presence becomes soothing rather than tense. This is Saturn's true reward. Not ease, not indulgence, but self-respect. Virgo no longer needs to prove their worth. They no longer tie identity to productivity. They understand their value on a deeper level. They've faced fear. They've survived exhaustion. They've confronted their own limits and learned from them. They become grounded, quietly powerful, emotionally mature. They don't rush. They don't panic. They don't collapse when things go wrong, because they trust themselves now. Saturn was never trying to break Virgo. It was teaching them how to stand without carrying the entire world on their shoulders. Virgo was never meant to be flawless. They were meant to be wise. And Saturn, in its slow and unforgiving way, made sure that wisdom would last a lifetime.